Well, you know how much I love the Moto G Stylus 2024. I think it was one of the best mid-range, which became a budget device of last year. $400 on launch, though, I was a little bit more skeptical. I thought it was a fantastic deal to get when the price dropped or you got it on a carrier discount, something like that. But my main advice was to wait. And for the majority of this phone's life cycle, it sat at $300, $275 new, which was a phenomenal deal and one of the best values that you were going to get in smartphones last year. So, naturally, I was excited when the Moto G Stylus 2025 came in, but Moto's done a few things to it. They've upgraded this particular device, and unlike last year, I think the Moto G Stylus 2025 is actually worth the price of admission on launch. Let's talk about it. Let's bring the camera around and we'll chat about it right now. All right, the Moto G Stylus for 2025, and I absolutely meant it when I think that this device is worth the price of admission. Now, if you can wait, if you got a perfectly functional phone that you're not worried about, go ahead and get that $300 or $275 deal down the road, because they are coming on this device. That's what's great. Or that carrier discount. There's plenty of them already started on this particular device that you can pick up that are really good. But I think that Motorola shored up a few of the, not weaknesses of the 2024 version, but things that would keep it from being in that conversation for one of the better mid-range phones, even though it's at the lower end of the mid-range at $400. But I think it's more competitive this year because of what Motorola added. Let's talk about the first bit. The Snapdragon 6 Gen 3, which is a very nice chipset. I like the Snapdragon 6 Gen 1 last year. People always complain when a phone doesn't have a Snapdragon in it, and this one is really good. Smooth experience, buttery, you got the 120 hertz on the display, never really any slowdowns or lag. You could do multitasking. I was able to do a lot on this particular phone, and that's also thanks to the 8 gigs of RAM that Motorola has included again this year. Even gaming, which you don't typically expect at that $350, $400 range, pretty good. Genshin Impact, gonna default to low settings. But it was a smooth low settings. I was getting decent frames. Pokemon Go was a good experience. So you're gonna pick up a lot in a phone that's only $400, and I think it's a more well-rounded experience than we typically see from Motorola at this particular price range. Display, I don't know how Motorola can make display any better, but I'm still gonna say it is the best panel on a mid-range phone, certainly for $400. It's 6.7 inches. It's Super HD, whatever that means. You got a little bit higher resolution there. But they've made it crisper this year. It feels like it's more saturated. It's got a bit more contrast. I really love this panel. It's fantastic. It's brighter, 3,000 nits of max brightness, and that makes a difference. When I crank this up, I could easily view it outdoors. Direct sunlight I'm talking about. So on those bright days, even though it's got a bit of glare with the Gorilla Glass 3 on here, you can absolutely enjoy it on those bright days outside. You're going to have no problem with the viewing or the viewing angles on this particular pattern. Gorgeous OLED display. Motorola has been best in class on displays in a $500, $400 range, and they absolutely continue that with the Moto G Stylus for 2025. Battery life, another big component on this one. 5,000 milliamp hour battery still, but Motorola added turbocharge this year, turbo power, 68 watt fast charging. I've used it on the ThinkPhone. I've used it on a couple other Motorola devices. Let me tell you something. That is a fantastic spec. Now, you're going to have to buy a separate adapter that can do that. All the rest of it, I understand. But it is a wonderful experience to just plug this thing and just watch it go. And you're going to be able to get 2-day battery life without breaking a sweat on this particular phone. No overnight battery drain, very little. I'm typically ending days with 65, 70%, making it through the entire next day. That's with mixed use. That's with gaming. That's with taking photographs. That's with doing stuff with the pen. We'll talk about the pen in a moment. A lot of good stuff from the battery life on here. So just as good as last year's, and now a little bit better with that increased charging that you've got. A lot of the legacy features that people like, right? 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. Love that Motorola hasn't done away with that. You got a micro SD card expandable storage up to 1 terabyte. Love that Motorola hasn't done away with that. You know, it's those little things that make this device a fan favorite for a lot of people. Because there's those things that you're like, why did they get away with that in the first? You know, I'm going back to the LG V20 for an article for Android Police. And that is probably the thinnest phone that you could get. And it's got a headphone jack. So it's, you know, don't listen to the excuses on, well, we get rid of it. Oh, this and that, and there's reason, there's no room in it. I don't want to hear it. they're cutting costs with that. They don't think you need it. But I like that Motorola keeps it on these devices. Then there's the other upgrades, which is the durability stuff. I like the fact it's IP68 dust and water resistant. You got the military drop test standard that you have on here. So it's going to be a more durable phone. That was something they also did for the G Power 2025, which I was a fan of. I rock these without a case all the time because I love the feel of the vegan leather back. So that's something, if you like it, yes, plastic frame. Yes, you got that kind of vegan leather back. And it's not going to be the same quality. You got Gorilla Glass 3 on the front now. So Motorola's done away with the Panda glass and the NEG glass that they've been using on their mid-range phones last year and in the past. So I do like the upgraded durability here. I would still, look, does that mean you toss your phone around? No. But it's nice to know that if you take it out of your pocket, you make a misstep, and your phone falls on the ground, it's not going to shatter to pieces instantly. I will say one thing about the vegan leather, though, that I noticed this year. I've been testing this device for about a week, 10 days, and I already could see wear. Now, I don't know how vegan leather works. Maybe it's supposed to patina like regular leather. Maybe that's part of the character of the leather. Maybe that adds a uniqueness to each individual device. I have no idea. But I'm just going to say right up that it wore a little bit and it's noticeable wear on around the camera hump here on my G Stylus 2025. You're going to notice an upgraded camera. This is not an extra lens. This is actually the depth sensor, which works well. I'm going to tell you that it's still a 50 megapixel sensor, but it's a new sensor this year. And you got the 13 megapixel ultra wide. In good lighting, just as impressed as I've been in previous years with Motorola stuff. Now, it has the same characteristics. It's the same color size. So we're going to throw up a couple shots that you're looking at. It oversaturates. To the point where it's comical? No. To the point where you notice it? Yes. I don't mind that. You know, if you're going to have a budget phone or a mid-range phone, I don't mind beautifying the image as long as it doesn't get ridiculous. And it doesn't. It takes just enough of the color, it turns it up a little bit, and it gives you a sharp, crisp image in good lighting that's going to look absolutely gorgeous on social media. And when I'm talking $400, if you get it on sale, $300, carrier deal, maybe $100, when I'm talking in that price range, that's what I want from the camera. Don't go full potato on me. Don't try to get natural with the colors because you're not going to do it well. Don't try to do things that give me an image that's poppy, that's vibrant, that's sharp, and that's exactly what you get from the 50 megapixel sensor on the Moto G Stylus. Very happy again with the cameras. But you're going to notice it. You're going to notice it. If you put this side by side with a Pixel 9a that you spend $100 more on, you're going to notice the difference. The Pixel 9a is more natural. The Pixel 9a is closer to what my eye actually saw. But it depends on what you want. If you want that, then go Pixel 9a. If you're Shutterbug, Pixel 9a is probably still your best bet. For everybody else that wants kind of this well-rounded phone for a little bit less money, you could go ahead and pick up a Moto G Stylus. So let's talk about the software. Software experience is still good. Android 15, Hello UI. You're going to get your motor gestures. Everything's still there. I still love the pen suite. First of all, unlike Samsung, the pen is on the right side of the device, which is very nice. But I do like the suite. Now, they've changed it a little bit. You don't see GIF Maker here. You see Sketch to Image, which is going to be that creep-in of Moto AI. And you got to sign up for an account. You can't use a Google sign-in. It takes a couple minutes. It doesn't cost me anything to access the premium features. But it's what you'd basically expect from Sketch to Image. So if you're not a fan of AI stuff, if you're not somebody who sits there and uses Circle to Search and all this other stuff, Moto, I guess, felt that they had to throw it on there. I don't love that they're starting to creep into that. I do feel like there was a place for Motorola to be like, hey, we're not the AI company where people will give you whatever. But I guess enough people want this stuff on the phones, and it's there, and it works well. You saw how responsive that is. Moto's worked on the responsiveness of the pen. It is faster than last year. I understand. I'm not going to sit there and compare it and say it's the S Pen on the Galaxy S25 Ultra, because there is still pressure sensitivity on the S Pen. There's other things that, even without Bluetooth functionality, that I do think make the S Pen a better or a more full functioning pen than the Stylus on the Moto G Stylus. However, to my eye, just on raw speed of the actual input of scribbling on the Moto G Stylus, look at how fast that is. That's very fast. It's almost an imperceivable delay between when you input and what's on the screen. So I appreciate that on a phone that the highlight is the Stylus, that Motorola actually worked on the Stylus functionality and made it that bit faster. So overall, really no complaints. I really like the phone. I've made my peace with the 2 years of upgrades and then the 3 years of security updates. I can't fight that battle anymore. It's a losing battle. I've written about it. I've complained about it. You've all heard me year after year say, Moto, you got to give us more stuff. I do want an always on display. There's an OLED, there's a giant battery. I do want an always on display. All right, so I don't give Motorola a pass on that. I have my piece with that. That's a big con of this phone. But as far as the software is concerned, I heard enough feedback from people saying, I'm going to trade this in a year or two. I'm going to get it on another carrier deal. I'm going to walk into my Walmart and buy another one for $100 2 years from now. I don't really care about the updates. Just give me a solid phone. And if that money that would be used on software support goes to a device like this, I don't care. And I get it. And you know what? Fine. I'll sign off on it. So that's why I think with the upgrades, slightly better performance, upgraded S Pen, or upgraded stylus, beautiful display, gorgeous display, 68 watt fast charging, IP68 dust and water resistance, all that stuff. I think for the first time in a while, this is a Motorola phone that I can actually suggest on launch for $400, as opposed to telling you, hey, this is a good phone, but wait until it's $300, $275. You can still do that. But I think this year you're going to be pleased if you pick up a Moto G Stylus for its launch asking price. If you've made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Until next time, have that delicious day.